Welcome back, everybody. We are in week 3 of our course. And this week we are going to talk about group leadership and structure. Let's dive in. This is what we've got on the agenda for today. We'll do a little catch up, our faith integration. We will talk about your cohort, your annotated bibliography, which is the next step in your team project. We'll also round up talking about effective leadership, situational leadership, and then we'll look ahead. Congratulations, you've made it to week 3. Always good to see that we're making progress, right? So for today's faith integration, I actually chose a personal hero of mine to talk about, which is William Wilberforce. You may have seen a movie that came back in, came out mid-2010s called Amazing Grace. It was based on William Wilberforce's life, but if you've never heard of him, I want to share a little bit about this abolitionist. William Wilberforce knew about God growing up, but he kind of forgot about his introduction to faith somewhere along the way. And at age 21, Wilberforce was elected to the British Parliament. Now, yes, that was very young, even for what my kids called back then, right? He had a great talent in public speaking. He was very charismatic, had a great personality, really intelligent, lots of friends. And he had a great crowd of intellectual friends who really encouraged him on towards public service. Well, in 1784, when William was 25, his family took a vacation to France. And on that vacation, a family friend shared about their faith in Christ with William. And he says that he, at that point, made a decision that he wanted to really dedicate his life to serving God. When he got home, he went to talk to the family pastor, Pastor John, and said to him, "Hey, do you think that I should quit Parliament and maybe go into ministry?" To which Pastor John basically said, now I'm paraphrasing, "No way, dude. You need to stick with the place and the space where God has called you. You need to stay in Parliament and do everything you can to do the work that God has called you to." And not too long after this, William became very passionate about the issue of the abolition of slavery in England in particular. So he spoke on the issue, he passed laws on the issue, and after 20 years of work in 1807, a law was passed making it illegal to capture Africans and sell them as slaves in England. And for those that were already slaves, their release would take William 26 more years of work to get a law passed to also guarantee their freedom as well. And William refused to quit even when he got older and his frail health threatened to end his life, or his closest allies gave up the fight. And in July of 1833, the story goes that 73-year-old William Wilberforce was sick in bed. I'm going to read a little bit to you here. He was awakened by loud footsteps in the hall. As the bedroom door flung open, he slowly turned his head toward the commotion. "William, have you heard? Your years of effort have finally succeeded. Parliament passed the Emancipation Bill. Slavery has finally been abolished in the British Empire." So William Wilberforce spent about 50 years working for the end of slavery in his country. And his faith in God and his love for people and just pure stubbornness, determination, refusal to quit helped him to be able to live to see that day. His position on that issue may not have been popular at first, but it didn't deter him from continuing on. It was the right thing to do, and God gave him the strength to do it. And I love this scripture. You might be familiar with it. It comes from Micah 6:8, and it says that the Lord has shown you what is good. He's told you what he requires of you. You must act with justice. You must love to show mercy, and you must be humble as you live in the sight of your God. And I think that really personifies and defines the life of William Wilberforce. And so a question I want to ask you to reflect on today, just on your own: how can you use your power and position to stand up on behalf of others or to amplify their voices? And perhaps you're in a position where you are hoping for someone to use their power and position to amplify your voice and to stand up on your behalf. So think about that today. And in a little bit here, we're going to talk about status and power and how critical it is as leaders that we're aware of status and power imbalances and working with our team to create equity. I asked you to share your cohort values. I haven't heard from anybody yet as the recording of this message, but hoping that we get a few of you to weigh in on those. So go back to the week 2 lecture, look at that list of values, and email me or message me on Canvas with your list of your 3 to 5 values that you live by. And I'll be sure to include it on the next presentation. Okay, your group project for this week is an annotated bibliography. Hopefully you've done one of these before, but if not, basically what you will do is you will find sources that are relevant to your final project, and these need to be credible. I'll talk about that in a moment. Scholarly sources, not popular articles, not a blog, or anything like that. You'll share the source, so share the APA formatted citation, as well as if you have a link to the source, that would be great. And then you are going to share what the source is about and how it connects to your project, how it connects to the topic of group behavior that we're studying in this class. Now, a little hint for you, as your team has chosen a TV show, episode, or a movie, and you've pulled out of there a basic theme, an overarching theme on group behavior, now I want you to start to really think about the topics that we're covering, both in the Tubbs book and then in our lecture times here, anything that we go over online, and start to pick out some themes there that you can work with. For example, the theme of conflict. Conflict is something we are discussing and will discuss in the class in depth in the next several weeks. So that would be a good kind of theme for you to attach to your project. And then you would look for articles on conflict in organizations, conflict resolution in organizations, conflict in leading groups, those sorts of things of a scholarly nature. For this assignment, you need to have 5 of those that are annotated and with references. And since you have your team set up, I recommend you have each member of your team find 1 or 2 articles that will work well for your bibliography. Now, in your final product of your presentation and your paper, you're going to want to find many more than 5 credible resources, just because of the length of the paper and the presentation and the fact that you will definitely want to support your assertions that you're making, as any good scholar would. So if there's more than 5 in this annotated bibliography, I will not be mad about it. I will look at as many as you want to include, that you think you'll be including in your final project. And sometimes this question comes up, so I'll address this. If you end up using a source for the annotated bibliography, but it doesn't make it to your final product, that's okay. Because sometimes along the way we realize, this doesn't exactly fit, or we're going to go in another direction. Here are 2 places you can look for credible, peer-reviewed articles. Google Scholar, I highly recommend. If you need a tutorial on that, there are all sorts of them online. I'm also really happy to do a Zoom session with you or you and your team to show you how to look for different sources. In fact, maybe I'll make a little video after this and show you around Google Scholar if you haven't used it before. Also, obviously, the Ryan Library is a great resource online to find those credible sources. What I would like you to do is to look for what's kind of called the seminal study, or that critical study on your topic. So if, for example, we'll go back to the topic of conflict in groups, if you are looking at the literature on that, maybe from Harvard Business Review or organizational psychology, you would want to find out sort of where the thought process on conflict in groups started, and then trace the scholarship from there to present time. So not only have something that's dated, 1985 or even earlier, 1956, but also bring that research up into the present day. What are scholars saying about conflict in organizations now? Because you'll find that often the scholarship has changed, the thought process has changed along the way. If you have any questions about a source, please email it to me. a link, a working link, or the actual document and ask me, does this cut, is this up to standard for what is considered a credible peer-reviewed article? I'm happy to help with that. All right, so today we're going to talk about the small group interaction and continue on talking on actually internal influences. So we're going to break this part up over several weeks because there's so many good internal influences here to discuss. So today I want to start by talking about inspired leadership. Now I have a video for you, of course, because of copyright issues, I can't embed the video in this lecture. So if you would please pause this lecture, head on over to Canvas and click the link on Muhammad Yunus and Grameen Bank and read about them, and then come back over here when you're done. Okay, I said read about them, but I meant watch. Watch the video. Hopefully you had a chance to do that. What did you think? What did you think about that model of leadership? And I have a question here for you to think about. What is it about the way that Grameen Bank conducts its business that serves to really instill leadership in the people involved in the Village Savings and Loans groups? For me, when I first learned about Grameen Bank, it was about, 8 or 9 years ago. I was really riveted by this model, this idea that Grameen Bank would entrust folks who may not be able to get loans from other institutions with funds, but also to raise up within these groups' ranks leaders who can keep each other accountable, keep each other encouraged, help each other with resources. I just think this entire model is so incredible. And I think something about the leadership of Muhammad Yunus that inspires me is that he's willing to, again, kind of take what would other financial institutions would consider a huge risk. He takes a calculated risk on these folks, and the return on the investment is really more than just financial. It is change, it is development, and it is truly inspired leadership. So I hope that you enjoyed learning more about Muhammad Yunus and Grameen Bank. So this is our thought question this week on inspired leadership. I want you to start by thinking about 3 people that have inspired groups to work towards a common goal. Now, this can be people you know, maybe a friend, a family member, a pastor, a teacher, you name it, or they could be historical figures, someone you've never met, either alive or no longer with us, who has really inspired you. Now I want you to choose just one of the 3. It's always good to have choices, right? And then you're going to go to the discussion board to talk about these points. So what are the qualities and traits that this leader has in particular that makes them inspiring? Are they trustworthy? Are they charismatic? Are they friendly? Are they driven? And what is or was their cause or purpose? What is their main reason for being in leadership? How did they get others to believe in their cause? What did it look like for this leader to rally others alongside them? And how did they communicate their aspirations? Was it through speeches? Was it through, a podcast, a blog, special writings, just one-on-one encouragement? I also want to know, what were people's reactions to this leader in their time? And this is from the past. Now, this question was really inspired by my reflection on the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in his time was a very controversial figure. And there were many folks that did not understand or support his mission. So I want you to think about that. How did this leader use their power and status to promote others? I'm going to talk about power and status here in a moment. And did this leader practice situational leadership in flexing their leadership according to the confidence and competence of their followers? Again, this question will make much more sense as you watch the rest of this lecture. Okay, I'm going to pause it here, and then I'm going to ask you to come back, and we are going to talk about vision and purpose.